Martin, thanks so much for joining me today on the Financial Planner Life podcast. How are you, my man?
Yeah, very good, thanks, Sam. Very good. Yes.
Excellent.
The sun's shining a little bit.
It is starting to creep through, isn't it? We've had like 2 weeks of absolute miserable weather. So I think everybody is absolutely off the back of the good news as well around easing of lockdown. I think everybody's sort of mentally getting themselves into almost summertime, don't they, when they see a bit of sunshine creep through about this time of the year.
I think everyone's thinking about beer gardens.
Yeah, they are. So I live on the waterfront in Bristol, and honestly, it's like I stepped outside of my flat yesterday, walked down in the evening to go meet somebody, and the whole of the waterfront, everybody was out drinking and getting right on it. So you could just tell like people's mindset changes when a bit of sunshine comes out. I don't blame them, to be honest. It's long overdue, isn't it? I think we're all looking forward to having some nice time with our friends and back to hopefully a bit more normality. My main focus is getting my daughter back to work, getting my daughter back to school because bless her, I think she's losing the plot at home, and my wife is, because I'm not helping out massively. I'm terrible. Right.
Counting down 2 weeks to go, I think, till back to school, isn't it? So
yeah. The countdown begins. Right. So you put the puppy away. You got your new dog, lockdown dog. Put the puppy away, and let's have a conversation now today about your career within financial planning, a little bit about your business, so our listeners can understand what it's like to be a business owner within financial planning, because I really enjoy bringing on people that run their own businesses within financial planning. It's a completely different skill set required, I believe, also to just being a financial planner. And it inspires people also to run their own businesses, because right now, I think the financial planning profession is in a startup period. We are moving into a period where a lot of advisors are going to be exiting out the industry, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial people now sitting within financial planning. And I think the next generation coming in are going to be more entrepreneurial as well. So I do like this feeling and the language I've been starting to use around it being a startup period for financial planning. It's a great opportunity for people to set their own practices up, as long as they can afford the PI cover, etc.
Yeah.
Right. So, Martin, tell us a little bit about yourself then. So when did you decide that financial planning was the career for you?
I sort of fell into it, I suppose. Like most people, I don't think there's many people at school thinking I want to be a financial planner. Although, having said that, I've heard a few people more recently talking about that. I think it's generally for people that enjoy maths, but it's more about social skills. I think so. In terms of myself, I fell into banking at the age of 18, as it was a career for life, as my dad told me. Join a bank, and that'll be you done and dusted for the rest of your life. So I joined banking at 18. Worked through the ranks sort of fairly quickly there, actually, and I got to the age of 20, 2 years in, and it was the new hot word was bancassurance then, which I'm not sure if you remember those.
Yeah, very much so.
So bancassurance, and I thought, well, this looks pretty cool. This does, and it's going to help me sort of progress my career. So I went down that route of bancassurance and qualified at 21, and did a good couple of years with the bank. Not too sure I knew too much about what I was talking about at the time. Although the training was exceptional in terms of getting you past your exams. But I think with any, when you're working for any one organisation, you only get to understand their products, and you don't realise what a big world is out there. So from then, I left the bank at, I think it was 23. Went to work with my old boss in the bank, self-employed. So went out into the whole sort of waters of self-employment and the risks that takes at 23. But at that point, it was before I got a mortgage or children, so it's a bit easy to make that decision when you've got less commitments, really, for that. I think at 23, I changed from being in investments to more mortgage focused. I think at 23, when you've not got the resources of a big bank brand around you, people aren't going to take a 23, 24-year-old that seriously. Been investing large amounts of their money. So a little bit more mortgage based there. I did that for a couple of years, but I got frustrated about being tied. I realised again, I was tied advisor then to legal in general, and I thought, well, this is a big world of independents out there that want to get to. And I always felt you're not really giving clients the full the full service by being tied to one. You know, there's so yeah, as we all know, there's a broad spectrum of products out there, and different providers have different specialist areas for that. So yeah, I set up my first IFA practice at 25 with 2 colleagues. This was a steep learning curve because none of us have been independent, and at a fairly young age, pretty green really. And so we set this company up, and we learned a lot. I wouldn't say we were that successful in what we did, but we learned a lot of things that going back we would have done differently. So I think we realised we'd try to run before we could walk. So then we actually moved the company into another IFA practice and became registered individuals for that. Did that for a few years, and that was going very well. Great environment, so with some very experienced IFAs. Went through the whole RDR period, etc. And I suppose one thing that's been in financial services taught me is you need to be adaptable, because this industry is changing all the time. And if you're not willing to change, then this isn't the industry for you. So went very well there, but I started working with building my professional connections and doing like networking, your business breakfast meetings, BNIs, those sort of things. And there's one firm of accountants I work very closely with. And then we decided to do a joint venture. So started up a joint venture. Myself and Dave, who's our compliance officer now. He wasn't our compliance officer at the time. We were an appointed rep. So we set up an appointed rep company as a joint venture with the accountancy practice. And that really sort of spiraled where we're going from there. And the business really just sort of grew from there. So one thing we found was working as a joint venture with an accountancy company was good because it gave us access to their clients. But it also instilled credibility among yourself. Because I do think within the professional organisations, your lawyers and accountants, they possibly don't look at as financial planners being on the same level playing field as them. I think it's changing. It's getting more structured that way. But the business continued to grow, and we got to the point where we felt that being a joint venture with one accountancy company was then probably holding us back a little bit with regards to that. So we did a management buyout, and so we're not tied to any one accountancy practice. We established our own brand. This was a couple of years ago. Which is when sort of Integrity Wealth Solutions really where the brand really got pushed from that. And yeah, business has gone from strength to strength. You know, every year we've had exponential growth, and never looked back at all. So it's been quite an interesting few years.
Great. Well, that was a really comprehensive overview. So thank you very much for that. One thing that sort of stands out to me, 21 years old, going into bancassurance pre-RDR. For those listening, you know, the bank and bancassurance was a fantastic place for trainees, and a great, you know, as you mentioned, a great training ground to get your qualifications and to get you in front of clients, especially pre-RDR, where you didn't need to be level 4 qualified. So the experience and that practical experience you gained was invaluable. And I mean, there were so many financial planners knocking around at the time. So yeah, great ground. And unfortunately, the guys that are out there becoming financial planners now don't really have that access, do they? You know, they don't have the ability to go in as a trainee in such an environment that will help speed their career development up, which is a shame. So 21 to 23 then. So 23, you decided to go self-employed. I mean, that is brave at 23 years old. So what was the reality like at 23 years old when you did that? Obviously, you moved into mortgages. You weren't given investment advice by the sounds of it. Was it as, you know, what was your motivation at that point? Was that because you just were fed up with being on the payroll, or you felt that you had loads of connections, you could make more money? What was your motivation to go self-employed? Because plenty of people, especially now, actually younger, are thinking, I could do this myself. But what was your motivation at the time? What was it that drove you to go self-employed at such a young age?
That eventually I knew that I wanted to do something on my own.
Yeah.
Going self-employed, I mean, it was a bit easier because it was with an old colleague that I worked with at the bank. He had already set up an established practice. So it's predominantly mortgages, but we were doing some investments and pensions. But I think, you know, at the age of 23, not many people are going to take you too seriously at that age. especially when you've not got the comfort of a big banking brand behind you. But the motivation was really, I just saw that as being the next step I wanted to go. I like the flexibility, etc., that you get by being self-employed. But I would say to people, don't go self-employed to think you're going to work less. You will work. You will double your hours. You won't double your profit, etc. But at the time, I suppose it was relatively easy, because at this moment in time, house prices were going up. It was very easy for people to borrow money as well. Easy to be later found out in the credit in a credit crunch. And also at my age, a lot of people I knew were looking to buy properties. So I had an abundance of clients from people I knew or friends of friends. So that really sort of did help me. And I think being in that whole period where people are looking to borrow and banks are willing to borrow, that made it a lot easier.
It was also very, as you just alluded to there, it was a very lucrative time to be a mortgage advisor, wasn't it? It wasn't unusual for mortgage advisors to earn considerable money back then. I remember I spoke to a fair few. In fact, I hired a couple of mortgage advisors when you mentioned there about the credit crunch. I'd sit down with them to come become recruitment consultants, because after the credit crunch, you couldn't place a mortgage advisor for love nor money. They just couldn't get the business. And some of them were earning some considerable money, when the mortgages were out there doing it. And I was one of those mugs that bought the Northern Rock mortgage, the 100%, well, 110%, I think it was at the time. Easy to flog a mortgage back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, great stuff. So you went into the world of self-employment, but that sort of sparked obviously an interest for you to continue on that path. And as you all progressed through your career and your confidence grew, you decided, look, there's a bigger world out there in the IFA world, become independent, and then move back into this world of pensions and investments. Is that right?
Yes. I think it was just that it was natural progression, really. Then I think being tied to one brand again, I just didn't see that I was giving justice to my clients. So right, you need to go independent. That's the place to be. And I'm still a big believer of that now. You need to be independent to offer the best advice to your clients.
I often get people approach me asking me, Sam, do you think I should go down the mortgage route first before becoming a financial planner? Is that going to be useful experience for me? Is it a good route to go down? What are your thoughts on that? So if someone, say 23 years old, 21, 22, bit like you were, do you think it's advisable to become a mortgage advisor, or do you think they should push forward with their level 4 diploma qualifications and start the process of becoming a financial planner?
I think there's certainly some merits in doing mortgage advice first, because a big part of our job is the people skills. You've got to get the people skills there. People buy from people, and it's about getting people to open up. And I think seeing something about a mortgage is probably an easier process than going down the investment side of things. So it's a good place to put your teeth on, I think. And also, if you're looking from the type of clients you're looking to get involved with at a relatively young age, it's going to be easier for you to deal with someone who's of a similar age to you.
So, say for example, you were approached by someone who's looking for a job, a candidate, and they had maybe, let's say, 2 years experience working as a mortgage advisor, and they were working towards their RO exams. Perhaps they were partly qualified. You knew they were going to qualify in the next 3 to 6 months, let's say. Would you prefer that type of person over somebody, say, who's got their level 4 qualification but doesn't have any practical experience of sitting down with clients in some form of capacity to give some form of financial advice?
Absolutely. I think it's about having those people skills. So it's not just about passing exams. Obviously, you do need exams in this industry, but you've got to have the people skills. But the biggest thing is attitude, because I always say you can't teach attitude. If someone's got the right attitude, they will certainly do well in this industry.
Okay, fab. Well, let's talk about now setting up Integrity Wealth Solutions. So when did you set that up?
So Integrity Wealth Solutions. He was initially set up next to this joint venture that we did with the accountancy practice. So that was our directly authorised company, and then underneath an appointed representative company, which was the joint venture with the accountants. So that was set up about 10 years ago now. But I would say the majority of our business was done through this joint venture with the accountants. It was just over 2 years ago now is when we sort of started merging the two businesses into one, and under the new identity of Integrity Wealth Solutions for that. And a big part of this has been it is working with professional connections. That is our model. That's how we work well. We are not particularly very good at marketing ourselves, which I think most financial services companies do struggle with that. But for us, it's if you give a high level of service to your existing clients, you'll get referrals, and that is probably the best gauge to measure how good a service you're giving by the referrals that you get. But also getting referrals from professional connections as well, your solicitors, your accountants, insurance brokers, etc.
Okay, cool. So that's really interesting to know, because obviously I come across lots of different types of financial planners, and some of them are struggling to be able to actually win client relationships. They're struggling to bring new clients in. And I often sort of dig a bit deeper on them to find out what professional connections they have and what they're doing about developing those professional connections. And the most successful financial planners that I talk to gain referrals at the highest level. So when you're talking about private client relationships, to you, that's the private client introducer relationship was originally started with this accountancy firm that you had that joint venture with. Up until that point, were you sort of advising clients? Were you sort of generating clients by word of mouth, if you like, from client to client? And then you saw an opportunity with the private client side and building a joint venture with the accountancy firm. Was that kind of how it works?
Yeah, historically it was always the traditional method of getting referred friends, family, of existing clients. I think where I tend to see my vision, I suppose, of where I see the market going and sort of the finance market is that it's more specialist advice. I think going forward, there's the people are personally more interested in their personal finances. So people with relatively straightforward needs eventually will do these things more and more directly themselves. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I can see more and more of that happening where people can access SIPs themselves more directly themselves. So we've structured the company a little bit like a law firm. So what I think the general model with financial services is that you are general practitioners. So someone will do a bit of a mortgage, a bit of investments, a bit of pensions. And we've said, well, actually, where we see the market going is more specialist. So we've set ourselves up very similar to a law firm. So everyone's obviously level 4 qualified and above and can give this holistic advice. But then if we're talking about specific inheritance tax planning, we've got certain members of our team that's got extra qualifications, it's a CPD experience in that. If it's someone who wants to advice, looking at the SAS and looking at loan backs and commercial property purchase, we've got specialists here that deal with that area. So that's the way that we see things evolving more and more going forward.
No, I like it. So those people so you've got people within your business, level 4 qualified, but they're experienced in this sort of more technical issues that might come up for some of these clients, especially in that private client world. And you're looking to form relationships then, I suppose, with solicitors as well. So if they're having clients come in that need technical, more of a thorough service from a financial planner around tax, inheritance tax planning, etc., then you're the go-to guys to be able to do that. So your strategy really is to sort of go out and start to build those relationships and build more joint ventures, not just rely upon the one. So having that one joint venture at the time was obviously brilliant for you because it got you experienced, it got you working with that accountancy firm, probably, especially as a joint venture, more so than if you were just a financial planner hoping to win some introducer relationships. You were embedded with that accountancy firm. So it's probably taught you a great deal about private client relationships and what the accountant goes through, as well as where the need for financial planning would be. And then the education piece to those accountants to be able to say, look, why don't you hand that client off to us at this stage and we'll do the same on the other stage as well. So that's the bit I think a lot of financial planners struggle with, especially when they're self-employed, is they just struggle to get those relationships with those accountancy firms and solicitors at that higher level. So you're saying, like, would you say to somebody who is a self-employed financial advisor now, for instance, or perhaps just starting up their own business, would you say really focus your attention on that private client? connection with it. Yeah.
Firstly, you've got to decide what is your specialist area.
Right.
So if you want to specialise in inheritance tax, for example, and be fantastic at that, or do you want to be specialising in business protection, or do you want to be specialising in more complex pensions? Because you cannot be a jack of all trades. You've got to have your identity. So that, particularly if you're looking to get involved with your lawyers, because a lawyer will have their specialist area, and they want to speak to someone who's a specialist. So, and you can't go in and wing it with professional. You shouldn't be doing that. So, and you certainly can't you can't be a specialist in all different areas for that.
So pick your niche specialism or build a team of specialists within your practice. And as you said there, you've alluded to, you're trying to build your financial planning practice almost like a law firm where you've got those specific people that are experts within a specific field. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And that itself is almost moving down that private office feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Giving that client the experience that they could move from one person to another who has that relevant experience that can take care of holistically I hate that word holistic within financial planning, but that holistic approach, if you like, take care of every aspect of that individual client's needs, regardless of the person that they're dealing with. So yeah, that kind of almost a bit, when you hear about like the family, do you know what a family office is? I assume you know what a family office.
Yeah.
I think that family office does that, doesn't it? There's always an expert in every area. And then the client sort of brought in, meets that expert, and then understands that there's a team of people around them that's looking after their well-being and their financials. And it kind of builds a confidence then that they're getting a level of service which is reflective in the fee that they're paying. Because obviously when you mentioned there before as well, there's a lot of access, isn't there, to technology now where clients can just set their own SIPs up, do their own investments. And there's the kind of DIY brigade, if you like, out there that are really keen to do this and avoid paying any fees to financial planners to do so. But then there are time poor clients, aren't there, at the higher end that are busy working and expect to almost have a financial planner, are happy to pay a fee according to the service that they're receiving. And that's where I believe you can justify quite a high fee. On the lower end, where the advice gap might well sit at the moment, and we're talking about what can we do to offer advice to those types of people, I don't think they're willing to pay a fee, are they, at a higher level for a level of service that they could probably do themselves?
Yeah, I think that just continue to evolve as well. I think the more straightforward advice, people will be willing to just go online, research and do it themselves. We think where our market is working with professional connections, but also business owners. It's people who are very good at making money business, but they want to know that the money they're making is working the best possible. Big emphasis on tax. I think you've got to have a very, very good understanding of tax going forward for that. But we're a big advocate of cash flow modelling. So I started cash flow modelling probably 15 years or so ago. I bumped into Paul Armson, who's well known in the industry, at a PFS conference for about 15 years ago, and he sort of enlightened me into Truth software. So we've been using that since then. I've tried all the different cash flow modelling softwares, but in our business that is embedded. Every single advisor understands how to use cash flow modelling. Every single advisor needs to be able to use cash flow modelling in front of a client. Yes, it's expensive while your advisors and your power planners having these licenses, but this is where you're adding your true value. Clients don't want a pension, right? Clients want to know they can retire at 55 or 60 and they want this level of income. But you need to help build the client's picture, and you need to people don't actually know what income they need. They know what they want to do. So we will spend probably an hour going through an expenditure questionnaire with the clients. Normally the husband and wife are arguing at this point as well, because the chap wants to do this and the wife wants to do this. But that's you're almost a client refers to me like a counsellor when you're speaking to clients as well, because you've got to, and this goes back to these people skills, you've got to extract that information, because people don't always know in their own mind what they want to do. And certainly, most occasions, the husband wants to do one thing, the wife wants to do another. So, you throw that bomb out there and get out of the room and see them next week once they've argued out and decided what their objectives are.
So the power of that sitting down with them, getting them to open up about perhaps what their fears and concerns are about their future, their worries about it, and then building that financial plan for them
Yeah.
with cash flow modeling helps them visualize and see where they could go based on specific spending and events within their lives that where perhaps certain tax situations might come up. So you can predict these problems for them or these issues and then put a plan in place which is visual that they can then see. So the idea being that it calms their nerves a little bit, trusts gets built with the financial planner, and where, hey, you've got yourself a client. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about well, if you're an independent financial advisor, the only reason that someone's not going to deal with you really is if they don't like you or if your fees are incorrect. So yeah, the sort of world your oyster in some ways. You've got to know what sort of clients you want and want to deal with. You need to have the expertise in yourself, but also in your team around you, so you can pull in that expertise as and when. But number one thing is getting on with that client and understanding that client. So what makes that client tick? What's important to that client? Because what's important for one client is totally different to another client. So never judge a book by its cover is what I'd always say to people as well. So you've got to spend that time to really understand that client for them to buy in, to be a proper client, and actually appreciate the advice that you're giving and see value in that advice that you're giving.
You get told a lot, and it gets banded around, that financial planning isn't a sales job. You know, it's not a sales job. You've got to get as far away from it being sales as possible. But I'm kind of in the camp that you are a salesperson because you have to sell your services.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sell your services to that client. Yeah, you're not going to sell them a product. I get that. It's, you know, we've moved away from the product selling. Well, hopefully we have. But it's about selling a service now, isn't it? Financial planning. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Do you think, you know, that if to be a good financial planner, you need to learn relationship building skills and perhaps even go back to the basics of what sales is and how to present yourself accordingly, so you get buy-in from clients at that initial level?
Yes, I think sales is a dirty word. I think in the industry, I think that's the issue. I think I don't like the word sales myself. So, we give people advice, but you've got to have the people skills for people to like you, trust you, and you've got to have that knowledge there. You can't wing it. You've got to more and more now, clients can access information themselves through the internet. Now that's not always with the right information, but they've got a whole huge amount of knowledge of information at their disposal. So if you're going to advise a client in a certain area, you need to be a specialist in that area. And if you're not a specialist, don't try and dabble in that area. You refer that on to someone who is a specialist for that. Mm-hmm. But you do need those skills to extract the information from the client, to get the client to understand what their plan is in the future. Because everyone's so busy working and making money, they don't really think about, well, what do I actually do? What am I working for? When do I want to retire? What do I want to do in retirement? Actually, is retirement for me? Because I've seen a number of clients that have retired and then gone, do you know what? I'm going back to work now. Now, whether or not that's because we're going through a pandemic and there's not a lot you can do or not, but retirement's not everyone's cup of tea. But for many people, it is their cup of tea, and it's understanding what people want to do. And this is going back to you. It is a little bit like a counsellor for your clients, to help them understand what they want to do with their life.
Interestingly, I wrote an article for Money Marketing last week, and they were asking my opinion of the types of personalities or people that would best suit becoming a financial planner. And I commented, as I always do, around, I see financial planning as being like a well-being proposition. It does calm people down, and money is a big concern and a big worry for a lot of people out there, regardless of how much. If you have very little, or if you have a lot, I think it's the same sort of worry across the board. And seeking financial planning, and I've done it myself, when I sit down with a financial advisor, it totally kind of grounded me and made me feel relaxed and comfortable, knowing that I was doing something about my financial future, and perhaps some of the expectations that I had in my head of where I should be or what I should be doing were actually out of whack, and I was probably doing more than a lot of people out there anyway. So I found the whole experience really grounding and really, I suppose, comforting, really. And that's the bit. And then when I found that, and I had that financial planner, and then the relationship started to be built between me and the financial planner, I could turn to him and ask him questions, about anything financial, and vice versa. He's dropping me information through as well. So I definitely see that value there. And within my article, I wrote about, I think teachers would be good financial planners. I think counselors would be good financial planners because they're good at relationship building, but also they're used to seeing different people at different times with different situations. So there's a level of emotional intelligence required, isn't there, to be a good financial planner, because you have to kind of gauge where people are, and someone might be totally cool with it all and have loads of information, loads of knowledge, and someone else might have absolutely none but have a load of money in their bank account, because they're flat out in the work arena. I mean, you touched on it earlier, didn't you, speaking to business owners probably like the worst, aren't they? They've got to be like flat out, all as I am, flat out all the time, and like we're expected to think we know about money and all of that, but actually we're sort of head down, focused on trying to build something, and actually finance becomes second,
all the time. I think you, particularly more and more these successful business owners, they work, so they won't have a grasp of their own finances, but successful business owners generally love what they're doing, and they will plow everything into that business, and everything else is sort of sidelined. So they'll be making huge amounts of money, but that money's not working properly for them. And this will cause for them a bit of stress. Am I paying too much tax? Is my money working properly for me? In your mind, I know when I want to retire, or I want to sell my business at some point, but actually I don't know how much I need to get. I don't know. I need 3 million. Are you asking why do I need 3 million? No idea. You go back to your cash flow modeling. You can forecast that for a business owner. So no, actually your figure is 4 million. So there's no point in selling 3, or actually you only need 2 million. So why don't you sell now? It's all about understanding that client, what makes them tick, what's their objectives. And I think that alongside your cash flow modeling, you've got to have the knowledge in the areas that you're going to be an expert in.
Okay, cool. So you sort of alluded to the fact that you do work with business owners. Is that part of your growth strategy along with working with more professional introducers like accountants and solicitors?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say majority. Our client bank is generally business owners, or probably high net worth individuals, high rate taxpayers. That's the people we see we're adding value to. We see that our target market is those people where they've got more complex requirements. And I think this probably goes back to my belief that I think as each year, more and more people will be able to, with more straightforward arrangements, will look to do that themselves. They don't necessarily need to take on a financial planner for that. So you really need to be an expert in your industry. You've got to have value. If you want to earn good money in this industry, your fees can only your fees have got to be in relation to the amount of benefit that you're giving that client. And if you're just giving them a straightforward pension with no planning and there's no lifetime allowance issues or annual allowance issues, and you've got to question where is your advice? Where is your advice? Where is the benefit that client is getting using you?
So let's talk about that then. So integrity, you've been going now for about how many years? About 11 years, you said, wasn't it?
About 11 years in integrity, yeah.
About 11 years, okay. And so you've grown that business. So how many guys have you got now and girls working within your business?
Yeah, there's 24 of us within the business.
24, great stuff. And how many of those are financial planners?
9 financial planners with a breadth of knowledge. We're fairly young as a business, so the majority of staff are 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Was your sort of plan to grow the business? Why, because some people choose to become a financial planner and just, do it for the lifestyle, really. Why did you choose to want to hire staff and build a business with more people within it?
I don't think I sat down and made that choice. It sort of just evolved, I think, and sort of grow. I would say, you don't run a business to improve your lifestyle. I think you'll agree with that, Sam. Yeah. You do sometimes look at your employed advisors and think, oh, well, I wish I was one of them.
Yeah.
But You've got to absolutely love your job and your work to have your own practice, and you've got to be adaptable, because if you're not gonna embrace the changes that happen, this is the wrong industry, and particularly you should not be a business owner, because changes are thrown in your face every week, every month. And you know what, whether you agree or disagree with the changes that the FCA put out, or other sort of industry bodies, you know what, you're not going to be able to change it, so you've got to embrace it and go and work with that. And it's all opportunities as well.
Okay, so let's talk about that as well, because I think the reality, I think sometimes people sit back, especially when you're employed and you think the grass is greener on the other side running your own business. What are some of the challenges, or what are the main things you came up against when you set up your own business, that you were not expecting? And perhaps you could pass on a bit of advice to those listeners thinking about running their own business and setting it up. What are the key things in the beginning that you wish you knew?
I think you're only as good as your team around you. And we've been very lucky. We've got a great team around us. So you've got to have the right infrastructure around you. You've got to have the right processes around you. The business has got to be a process-driven business. You need a written process for everything, to sort of to follow through on that. I think as well, it's about in these specialist areas. I think when you initially set up, you just want any bit of business. So you're thinking, right, let's just take everything on. But you can't be a jack of all trades for everyone. You've got to know what is your market, where are you adding value. We know where our market is. We know where we're adding value to our clients, and they're the clients that are going to appreciate the advice, and we're adding value to them. So they're touch wood, they're not going to go anywhere, because they're getting value for for the fees that they're paying for it. But I think probably don't grow too quickly. I think is probably one measure. I think there's a lot of companies there that try and grow far too quickly. It's all about the people you're recruiting. You've got to get the right people in the business, and people with the same mindset that will get on.
So that's a good bit of advice, actually, because I think we can sometimes feel that the more people we employ, the bigger our business gets. So the more successful it is. And I think that's a bit of an ego-driven type thought process, and a bit of prestige-driven thought process, in the sense that how big my company is, look how big it is, we must be doing well. And I fell foul of that. And then you look at the actual bottom line and you think, we're not making any more money, but we've got more stress on our, more people to manage and more to do. And I think when you strip that back, remove some of those, dare I say it, dead weight. When you do that and you remove it, you start to see actually the core people around you that follow the same principles that you have, and that have the same outlook that you have to grow the business. And it's surrounding yourself with those people that helps you grow, but not only just helps you grow, but it helps you keep your sanity as well, because you're not constantly putting out fires around you or having to deal with things you don't need to deal with. You've got people that are aligned to the same values as you. And I suppose there grows the culture, and culture is a big word at the moment within growing your business. Even more so now, we've moved into this kind of home and office type culture that we're now moving into. I think that's going to stay. I don't think we're going to go, right, everybody back to the office, no one's working from home. I think we've got this hybrid model now, and I think culture is more important than ever. What do you think about culture within your business, and what is the culture like at Integrity?
You've got to have everyone's got to be singing off the same hymn sheet. What we want, I suppose, our model here is that we want driven. So take our advisors, we want driven advisors. So we don't want a load of advisors that are bringing in 150,000 pounds worth of fees. Albeit quite nice. But what our model is that we need advisors that are going to be looking to write in 250, 300,000 plus of fees a year. The reason for that is you need to have the infrastructure behind. You provide all this infrastructure behind them that comes at a huge cost by having your power planning team, your admin team, your technical compliance, etc. for that. We sort of work hard, play hard as well. So again, we regular staff nights out. That's because you get so busy with work, and we're lucky everyone gets on well. But you're so at work, everyone's everyone's got a job to do, and you get everyone out of the office. when you could. This is a great bonding experience. So we started introducing closing the office for a team building day. That was taken to the races for the day. You get a coach, go to the races the day, and the amount of goodwill that gets from everyone is you can't put a price on that. And it's about getting people have got to like who they're working with. They'll work better. It's better for the business. It's better environment for the staff to get on with people as well for that. So working from home has been a bit challenging because I think as an office we like to bounce things off, but we'd already, fortunately for us, we'd embraced the likes of Microsoft Teams before the pandemic. We'd started using DocuSign before then. So it actually, for us, we more by luck, because we could, we never foresee this coming. We were quite to unplug computers and plug in and work from home. Everyone's working well from home, but I think it's that camaraderie, isn't it? It's that sharing the idea. Where you get a coffee and having a chat to someone, you're sharing a bit of an idea for that. And I think everyone's looking forward to getting back into it's not going to be the old world, it's going to be a new world, but I think it's a bit of a hybrid from where we are now to where we were before. It's where we're going to, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that side.
Yeah, I do. I just think I think we're entering into a hybrid. I was prior to lockdown. I didn't realize just how much I felt I needed everybody in the office. Like to me, it was like, I suppose, a bit of a control thing, where people were in the office. I could feel like they were here and they were working. Now, what lockdown's taught me in the last 12 months is you don't have to be in an office and to make money. You don't have to be in an office to do your job. And I mean, some of the guys in my business have been fantastic. They've not been working in the office, but yet their billings have gone up during a pandemic. Yeah. And I had to really question the need for offices. Is it a need? Is this culture of bringing everybody in, having everybody in the same space all the time? Is it really a necessity? And I think what it's about is treating employees like individuals that have their own thought processes, and not that I want them to think the way that I think. So I had a big revelation that I was controlling in my thoughts and the growth of my business. If everyone does what I say, then we're going to grow. Absolutely wrong. My mindset was completely wrong. And now where I've let go of that need for control, and I can see how, and now when you do that, some people just don't respond very well. They kind of almost, when you leave people to their own devices to run their business as if it's their business, they struggle. And those are the ones that I don't feel then fitted into the culture of my business anymore. The ones that just relished it and loved that freedom, and they are the ones that have made more money, and they're the ones that are sticking around. Does that make sense? So I think we can let go of that need for control as business owners, bring people in that we trust more and be more trusting of them, and everybody benefits from it. The overall well-being of my staff has improved. It was tough during lockdown. We've brought in things like benefits packages. We're lucky to have it, like Health Shield, private medical insurance for some of our staff. And they've used all of the resources that are there. So the counseling, anything around mental health they've used. And it's been a real benefit to them. So culturally, I like to build an environment where people feel that they can be themselves, that they don't have to hide behind a facade, that they're constantly on top of their game. And that if they are having a struggle, they can talk to me, they can pick the phone up to me, and I talk about my struggles. But I don't need to be on them all the time, micromanaging. I realized that I was doing that unconsciously. And that was a real learning experience for me. So
whole 9 till 5 as well, the mentality that we have to 9 till 5 or whatever the hours are. Why do you need to work set hours? I mean, you obviously need a certain number of staff to work those hours, to man phones, etc. So I think we all know, you get that feeling in the afternoon. I just certainly, it gets to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Do you know what? I'm looking at a screen. I'm not being productive.
No.
So actually, what's the point of me just looking at the screen until, for the next hour until I get productive, or next 2 hours until it's 5 o'clock? And I think I'll finish work now.
Yep.
Go and take the dog for a walk. Go and go for a run. Do something else. And I think if you've got the staff with the right sort of mentality and bought into the business and want the business to succeed, everyone succeeds. They might go off for an hour in the day, and they'll work in the evening. I mean, I know, you know, I've got some members of staff that work particularly well. So we've got one advisor, and he works really well between 9 o'clock at night and midnight. So we get loads of emails off him then. You know, you're not going to get many emails off him in the morning. Well, I've got other members of staff where we've got emails through at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's getting that shift culture. And I think I struggle with this with being a business owner. I don't you want to say, but if I'm not working, I feel guilty.
Yeah, massively.
I'm myself here, because if I'm not being really productive, go and do something else that I'm actually going to enjoy and make myself productive again. So I think there's a big shift in that, and I think as business owners, we've got to identify that's going to work better for our staff as well. And it is a little bit, and it is having that trust there. I mean, I've got to say, we went into lockdown, and I was thinking, oh my God, the staff are all going to be sitting at home on their Xboxes and watching Netflix and everything. So initially, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. We were getting everyone on for a Teams meeting. Everyone got the cameras on to make sure they're not lying in bed. And so I soon realised, actually, you know, what you're worrying for. You've got some great staff, and they're all they're all appreciating being in a job and not having to worry about things. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a few that would have liked to have been furloughed when we had all that great weather over the period, but yeah, we didn't need to furlough anyone on that. But you realise that staff are working better in this environment. Yes, they're going to go and stick a wash on and do the other bits of jobs, but at the end of the day, that's, you know, as long as they're getting their job done. And I think with the majority of our staff, we're getting a lot more out of them working at home, and I think it's a lot better for them. You know, some of our staff have got it could be an hour's commute each way a day. They're not having to do that. So
massively, and that's the benefit I'm seeing is allowing people to work the way they want to work. That open, honest relationship. So there's no point in someone sitting at a desk, right? So it's taken an hour to get into work. They're stressed out, they're nut because they've got to get there on time. They get there a little late, then they feel really bad about it. Then in the back of their mind, they're thinking, God, I really got to do that. I've got to make that phone call to the doctor or whatever it might well be, right? It's just not an effective way to work. Give them that control and say, right, it's your life. You work it out the way you want to do it. If you want to work between those hours and those hours, it's over to you. But as long as you pick the hours that are most effective for you, then it's over to you. And I don't need to tell you. And we'll have a conversation at the end of the month around your figures if they're down or your figures if they're up. Now, releasing that control has been, and you said it yourself, that stress that you feel as a business owner, worrying about what people are doing, because obviously you're worried about your own security. If they're not working, then your whole business can go under. We're worried about paying the bills, aren't we, essentially, and making sure that we're making some money as well. But I think we have to start with ourselves. So when we start with ourselves and we start looking at our thoughts and our feelings and starting to learn about why we're doing these things, then it sort of dissipates. It goes out to the staff as well, and the staff feel a lot calmer. So yeah, I've experienced that. And I think culture-wise, it's about letting go of the need for control, hiring the right people and trusting that they're going to do what they want to do, that they're adults and they can manage their own days. And guess what? You don't have to be sat at you do not have to be sat at your phone for 10 hours, 12 hours a day to be effective. You can be super duper effective within 3 to 4 hours. And that's one thing I've learned. You know, like I'll sit there and I'll bash it out for 3 or 4 hours and I'll go for like 2 hours. I give myself a time now during the day, but for 2 hours where I'm working on my own personal health. So that's going for a run, that's doing some yoga, that's doing some meditation. It could just be that I'm just spending 2 hours not working because I know that when I go back to my desk for another 3 hours, I'm refreshed. You know, and that's the bit I think cultural wise that's changed. The ability to also, as a business owner, especially within the financial planning space, you can now start to look at your staff not being just within your geographical location. So we all know there's a fall in the advisor numbers and a shortage of advisors coming in and good quality power planners, etc. So if you're running a business within a geographical location where you've got very few people anyway within your area that you can hire to help grow, all of a sudden your net can be a lot wider because you're more flexible with how people can work. So you're opening yourself up and your business up to a far wider audience. And the ones that are kind of keeping that control, they'll lose those staff to people who are forward thinking and trusting in this new age. And that's the way business owners within financial planning needs to go because of the shortage of staff that we're going to be seeing over the next 5 to 10 years. You know, a huge amount of advisors leaving the profession. You need to be flexible. You need to be attractive to the next gen, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Cool, man. Great. So what are your plans then? So you've obviously grown a business there. It sounds like it's going really well. You've got a great model there. What are your plans over the next sort of 5 years? Are you looking to grow? What's your aspirations?
I think growing the business, but yeah, we're not looking at acquiring businesses.
Mm,
I never say never about anything, to be honest, but we're not really looking at acquiring businesses because I think if you offer a good service, business will come to you. So
mhm.
go and pay a lot of money to acquire a business when you can grow it organically that way. You've got a bit more control if you grow it slowly as well. So it's certainly looking to grow, but for us, it's about looking at the right people come along as well. So if there's the right financial planners coming along, we'll look to recruit them. Even if we haven't got no need for the right person, if it's someone you really think is fantastic, you recruit them as soon as possible before your competitors get them. I think it's building our professional connection. So when I say building professional connections, you've got, it's not about scattering yourself out there everywhere. I think you've got to build your trusted professional connections up. So, for us, I think if we're working with maybe 3 or 4 law firms, that's probably where we'd like to be, but very effectively. And we've got lots of law firms that we're fortunate to sort of work with already, but you need to really get that where you're buying into each of the services. So I think it's about delivering a good outcome to your clients. So if your accountant, your lawyer, your commercial brokers, they're the key partners really for that. So it's developing those relationships more and more. It's a lot about it's a lot about understanding as well who you can refer your clients to as well, because the amount you need to be able to trust that you can refer clients on to get a will with the right solicitor that they're going to get on with as well. So I think we're certainly looking to grow the business. We're not looking to go out and acquire lots of business, do it that way. Our model is it's getting the right people on board. And the best people in those roles. We want to get the best administrators, the best power planners, the best advisors. We don't want to have 100 members of staff. We want to keep it as a business where we've got very driven individuals within that business for it.
So very lean, but very experienced, driven individuals. I suppose they're a numbers game, just getting everyone in for the sake of doing it and hoping for the best. So some people that have got aspirations to grow their books, as you mentioned, as financial planners, you're looking for a certain somebody that has aspirations to turn over 300,000 plus, not 150 or 100,000 plus. You don't want that person who's just ticking over because it pays them a nice salary. You want those people that are driven to want to succeed and help push that business forward, push into new areas and help it grow. No, that's exactly the way you want to do it, really. Okay, cool. So
to as well in terms of a business. I mean, certainly when you set up, if you're looking to grow a business that's going to turn over £1 million, I think it's very hard to, you're better off being an advisor, because your number of your costs that you've got, and when you're looking at some of your costs are fixed pounds amount, you need to get above a certain level of turnover to start making it that business really worthwhile doing. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just be an advisor as a company? So I think I think you need to be getting around a £2 million turnover to start really start making that business a worthwhile option for you, given the hours and lifestyle you're having to give up for that. So again, I think there's a lot of people that want to set up their own businesses, probably a little bit like I did, where you've just got 2 or 3 of you. I think the problem there is that with all the compliance and all the admin and process you've got to have in place, it's not a viable option at that level. You're better off being an advisor and just being a really good advisor.
about at that sort of level, though, instead of going down like the RI route, for example, you go down the AR route. So you're an individual financial planner, you've got aspirations to grow a business, but you don't particularly want to be aligned to somebody else's brand. So there are some networks, for example, regardless of your turnover, that will allow you to become an AR. And then by being an AR, you can then build on your own personal branding and then start to establish a brand, establish a business name. And as you grow naturally, at least then you're prepared to be ready, if you like, to start hiring people. And there's a brand that's there to attract new financial planners. I see so often like financial planners that go off and set themselves self-employed as RIs that want to grow their businesses, but they're stuck under the branding of somebody else. And then it's a whole kind of effort and to build your own brand thereafter.
Yeah.
And that kind of happens, doesn't it?
You've got to have your business plan. Someone told me a number of years ago, always have a business coach and change those business coaches regularly as well. So maybe every couple of years. And so I've worked with a few different business coaches over the years. And it does help getting that experience from an outside person to align where do you want to be in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years plan.
So that is advice that comes up on a regular basis when I talk to successful business owners within the financial planning profession, is get a business coach.
Yeah.
You would say did that really change so what are the benefits to getting a business coach as a financial planner?
I think number one is your account. They're not always going to tell you something that you don't already know, right? They will do some things, but a lot of the time they'll tell you things that you know anyway. But you're accountable to someone, because as a business owner, you're probably not that accountable to many people. So if you agree that you're going to get something done by a certain date and you've told them that, there's more of a chance you're going to do that than if you're only accountable to yourself for that. So I think that's probably the number one. And they've got a breadth of knowledge from dealing with other industries and other directors, so they understand a lot of the common faults that are going on. So it certainly helped us build a structure to the business, which was key. So we've sort of built the structure where we've got the directors, then we've got the management team underneath, and I think you've got to have that structure in the business. You've got to have your plans, because I think there's too many people in all businesses that are doing well in business, but they're not sure what direction they're going in. And tangent, and it might go well for a period, and you need to pull yourself back online. So you do need to have your plans on where you want to go for a business. But yeah, I mean, business coaches, they're a necessity for anyone that's running a business.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm looking into myself, to have a business coach. I've just taken on a finance director, where we had two of us, and one was, I'm marketing, sales, if you like, and then Stuart was more the sort of running the business operations. We didn't have anybody in like a finance role that was 100% on finance. So I've developed a relationship now with this finance coach, and he takes care of all our accountancy, all of our forecasting, and he's there to challenge us on the growth of the business. So if there's money sitting in the bank account, what are we doing with it? Are we just sitting on it? What are we planning on doing it? Where do we want to take this business? And it's amazing to sort of, when you do run a business, is that time flies really quickly, and you realize, actually, I don't have a plan for this. It was like something you said earlier. I think to myself, because my business is almost kind of my retirement as well. I look at it that way, and you've got a figure in your head of what you want to achieve, but I've never sat down and actually planned it out, and I'm only just starting to do that now. And it's like, wow, that's freeing me up, that's getting me thinking about my goals. And I think it's a really vital bit of advice. And I think we can often neglect the outside advice or coaches, etc., because it's an expense, isn't it? It's an added cost.
I think the other issue you get, I think, is being a business owner. And I have a massive, issue with this. Is a control freak. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to know everything, and you've got to be happy to delegate work across to people, then to see it all through. Because generally they're going to do a better job than me, to be honest, as well. They've got more time to dedicate it to it. So you've got to be prepared to sort of delegate down, and don't be such a control freak about everything as well. Which if my staff hear me say that, they'll laugh, because I'm the worst control freak. So it's something. It's you've got to know your weaknesses and work on your weaknesses. And that again is what a business coach will help identify. Which is not always what people want to do, is pay someone money to tell them what they're not very good at. but you need to know. And I think you need that outside person looking in the business. Too embroiled in the day-to-day work, so you need someone who's going to stand back and pull you back with them to actually look at the business from an outside and see where you need to go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I've been working with a coach in other areas of my life, and it's been an amazing experience when someone pulls you up on your defects, and why you do the things you do and why you get panicky and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, like someone challenging your thought process, because you run on autopilot most of the time. And unfortunately, that autopilot's usually off the back of fear, usually worrying about something. So you're kind of building all these things around you. That's like controlling something from a place of fear, and then when you realize that, you're like, whoa, man, I've been living my life like that. No wonder I'm stressing out. So no, I see the value in it. And I think after this finance coach has come on board, which we're doing now and onboarding him, I think the next one is getting a business coach. So any recommendations, just send them my way, because I'm very much up for going down that path. And that excites me, actually.
Yeah. I think the next 10 years is going to be interesting in the financial services industry. Going to evolve. Every industry is evolving faster and faster. And I think that financial services is going to be no different to that. So I think it's along with change comes opportunity as well. So it'd be interesting to see what happens over the next 5 or 10 years.
I agree 100%. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today, Martin. Thanks for an overview of your career and some of your thoughts and insights into running a business within financial planning. So I really appreciate your time today. Keep in contact, and I want to hear more about integrity and see more of you guys out there. So I think when you sort of jump on your marketing wheel, that sounds like you're going to be doing some of that in the future. It'll be great to see it, because it sounds to me like you've got a fantastic model there. You're working in a great space, and I don't think you'll have much trouble growing with the right financial planners as long as you get yourself out there,
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for your time, Sam.
No worries. Brilliant. Thanks, Martin.